President Trump has proclaimed himself the fertilization president. It might be tempting to call that declaration hyperbolic, but two UC San Diego researchers actually found evidence that birth rates climbed 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Public Matters reporter Amita Sharma has more in the first of a two-part series on fertility. And Amita, this is such an intriguing finding. Tell us more about this.
Well, these two researchers, economics professor Gordon Dahl at UC San Diego and assistant professor of finance William Mullins, decided to examine whether there is a link between fertility rates and presidential elections. And so they evaluated birth certificate data in Republican-leaning counties and Democratic majority counties. And what they found was that after President Trump was elected in 2016, that there was a distinct jump in the birth rates in red counties, and at the same time, there was a drop in births in blue counties. Here is Professor Mullins with more.
We get a range of estimates that range between about 1.5% of the U.S. fertility rate, all the way up to about 3% of the U.S. fertility rate, just rough order of magnitude. So that's essentially saying that the Republican counties saw a big increase relative to Democratic counties. And that the size of that difference is about 3% of the U.S. national fertility rate in our main analysis.
It's important to emphasize that the size of that difference did not change the entire decline in fertility or reverse it, but it is not small either. And Dahl points out that Republican women have always had higher fertility rates than Democratic women.
But Trump's election widens the gap between Republicans and Democrats by about 17%. So that's one way to think about it. Another way to kind of think about how big this effect is, it's about the same shift in births that happens when you have a 1% increase in unemployment. So people are fertility is fairly responsive to the overall economic conditions. And when unemployment rate goes up by about 1%, that's about the same magnitude we're talking about here.
The reasons Mullins and Dahl say Republican women had more babies than Democrats during Trump's first term are fascinating and reveal something about the nature of the difference in outlook between Democrats and Republicans. But the biggest one, according to Dahl, is hope.
And there's economic optimism, like where's the future of the economy going? And there's also optimism about, where's society going? And so if you look at the election of Donald Trump, which was a surprise. Most people, including the New York Times poll or betting markets, predicted Trump was not going to win. He wins unexpectedly, and what you see in terms of measures of economic optimism is they flip almost overnight.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton.
So in a flash, Republicans became optimistic about the future and Democrats became pessimistic. There were changes in other voting blocs too. For example, even though Latino voting patterns have changed since 2016, soon after that year's presidential election, Mullins says there was a change in birth rates in the group.
You find that Hispanic fertility in the counties in which he made campaign visits actually fell relative to non-Hispanic fertility. And that lasted for about 3 to 4 months after each campaign stopped.
And Maya, I did ask Dahl and Mullins if they expect a similar bump in the birth rates now that Trump is back in the White House, and Dahl said he does. At the same time, Trump is actually trying to get more women to have more kids, and that is the focus of my piece tomorrow.
Wow, absolutely fascinating, Amita. Thank you so much. We look forward to tomorrow's piece.
Thank you, Maya.
And Public Matters is a partnership with KPBS, iNews Source, and Voice of San Diego. And you can see more of our stories at kpbs.org/publicmatters.